What's up, guys? Welcome back. Amazing RC. It's your boy Brian, and today is a very, very exciting day for me. Today, I finally get to show you what I have been working on for the last 6 months. No joke, 6 months. This truck has consumed my life for 204 work hours. Now, as a brief overview, this whole entire extravaganza started from a very good friend of mine, Gary, over at RC TRAILCATS. Now, he got a hold of me about 6.5 months ago and said, Brian, I want to do this cool collab with you. But instead of, building something together, why don't we build separate vehicles, and then when we're done, we'll trade them? And I thought that was mind-blowing. I was like, yes, this is great. This is awesome. And I said, let's start with the same vehicle, of course. And that's exactly what we did. We started with an EAT01 by Eachines. Now, this is a 6-wheel drive platform. We got it from BADDEST.com. These run right around $50, $55. It comes with a cool canopy. They're very military, and this happens to be the truck that Gary built for me. Now, I have a killer video on this. I'll leave a link to the end, and you can go check that out. This thing is packed with so much tech. It would take me an hour just to describe that. And today we're going to talk about this truck. So, I started with a 6-wheel drive EAT01 by Eachines, and this is really what I came up with. The only thing that I really wanted to do with this was I wanted to keep the stock cab. Gary went with this awesome Lexan cab, and the reason he did that is because he's got a giant 540 motor in there by RC 4-wheel drive. I mean, he's got basically the electronics to which you would put in an axial Wraith or a Traxxas TRX4. I went on the opposite side of that, and I tried to keep everything as small as possible because I wanted to keep this cab. And one of the main reasons is because I knew it would be extremely difficult, and it was. And I'll show you why throughout this video. Now, this cab has a really cool tilting motion to it, and I just fell in love with it when I first bought one of these trucks for myself as a stock form. And I had to have it. I wanted to keep it, and that posed so many issues throughout the entire build. Where I want to start this video is with the electronics. Now, we're going to go through every single part of this entire vehicle, so I hope you're comfortable because there's a lot to go over. Keeping small in mind, when I went with an ESC, I did just that. Now, the ESC is actually hiding right under here in the center portion, and it's a 20 amp ESC. They call it a double-sided ESC. I believe you can run a RC car. I think you can run 2 motors off of it. I'm not exactly sure, but they call it a double-side ESC for some reason. I got it because it could run a 2-cell LiPo battery safely, and also it was very tiny, like no case around it. It's basically shrink wrapped into a chipset, and it's exactly what I needed. That ESC is connected to a metal transmission and gears and a 370 motor, also from Banggood.com. Now, I actually had that motor and transmission briefly in my C24, and knowing that it was a wicked high torque transmission and motor setup, I knew that it was exactly what I wanted to use in this truck here. For a steering servo, I actually stepped outside Banggood.com and went to what I knew. I got a Traxxas 2056 micro servo, and I thought, 80 ounces is going to be plenty for this tiny little truck. And the servo was small enough to fit in the stock spot here without doing too much customization to get it to fit. For a receiver and transmitter, we got the Dumbo RC X4 transmitter and the X6F receiver. Now, they come as a package, and I think they're just about $20 on Banggood.com. It's one of the best deals that they have on there. Has amazing range, which I've got videos on that, as well as it's ridiculously inexpensive. One of the other features of this radio transmitter setup is that the receiver is a 6-channel receiver, and that was very important for this build because I wanted to put 2 on-off switches. Now, these are from Banggood.com as well, and what they allow me to do is run 2 channels per on-off switch worth of LED lights, and it also allows me to run those from the transmitter. So I've got on-off switch right here, and then I have another toggle switch right here, and I can run 4 channels of LEDs with just those 2 buttons without ever touching the truck. And ever since I did that with one of my RC cars a while back, it goes in everything that I build. Everything. It doesn't matter if it needs it or not. I just love the on-off switch. I think they're about $5 each, and I've got a stack of them. So for a battery, I actually upgraded it twice. It comes with a nickel metal hydrate battery. We know that's obviously not going to work. So I went with a 2-cell LiPo, but it was 800, 900 mAh LiPo, and with all the LED lights that I have on here, it wiped the battery out in probably 3 minutes. So we upgraded a second time to a WL Toys 1400 mAh 2-cell LiPo. And unlike the previous upgrade, which were like 2 regular batteries, this is a flat pack style LiPo battery, which is what we're all used to, and it just holds a much better charge. I ran this yesterday to kind of shake things out, and I think I ran it for about 10 or 12 minutes and still had half a battery left. So that was with all the LEDs going in demo mode, and that was with the winch pulled a few times. So I'm very happy with the second upgrade. This 2-cell LiPo battery is going to be plenty. Now, getting a battery in this was very difficult because you only have this tiny little space to work with. You know, you can't go very far. What Gary did, which was extremely smart, is Gary created a whole nother battery box. So I had all kinds of options for batteries that I could stick back here. Gary has this battery. Now, I'm sure there's a few other things that you can fit in there, but this one is going to be enough. We've got this high torque T10 winch from Integy. Now, I've had this winch for about 2 years, and I absolutely love it. I rarely used it. I'm not a winch guy, you know. I don't go to many competitions to where you're forced to use a winch all the time. I think that it just takes too long to stand there, and you're now not in a scaled truck. Now you're a giant person pulling a winch out. That's just me. I'm the weirdo. It's totally cool. But I figured I would donate the winch to this build because it looked really, really cool. And it operates well, which I super dig. It allowed me to do some kind of crazy stuff. It's one of my favorite winches. Now, I did put it on the toggle switch just because there was so much going on with the transmitter already. We didn't need wireless crazy stuff. Plus, the little scale guy's not going to have a wireless, you know, winch. He's going to have this kind of toggle switch kind of thing. So I thought it looked really cool being there, and I'm very happy with the way that it came out. Now, you will notice the elephant in the room is this cool little eye hook down here. Now, this is actually not only removable, but movable. There are 2 different places that you can put it. You can put it here and store the winch this way, which I think looks completely amazing. You can also remove this, and you can store the eye hook here, and of course, wind the winch back up. So you can have it hooked to this. This unhooks from here. It actually, one of the other really cool things that it does is it actually goes through the eye hook completely. So you can put, let's crank it up here real quick, just to give us some, and you can move this out and actually use it through the eye hook. And this was my original design. What I wanted to be able to do was basically use the winch. And if the winch is coming from here, I mean, yeah, I've got carbon fiber here. It'll work perfectly good. I'm totally cool with that. However, I thought back here gave you much more range of where you could pull this thing from. Basically, you would have, you know, whatever. I'm turning into a winch guy all of a sudden. You could have this towing from any angle. You know, it could come from over here, and you can tow it in. You know, that eye hook's going to let you do it. You can tow from over here instead of dragging it across the deck of the truck. I thought it was going to be a pretty cool, you know, idea, and I had to go with it. I'm glad that I did. I think it looks pretty awesome. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about it. before we run over into all the custom work that I did, let's run over just some store-bought Banggood.com parts that we use to upgrade this, because believe it or not, some of them are quite important. One of them is just this cool little fire extinguisher in the front. I think it was $3.50. Really awesome. I had to throw it in there. I think it looks really good right there in between the windows. One of the other small pieces that kind of goes unnoticed from Banggood.com also are these really nice aluminum LED housings. Now, they're solid aluminum. They are 5mm LED housings. I think you get 5 in a pack. I used all 10 of the 2 packs that I got on here. I've got 4 back here. I've got 4 up front here in the headlights. I also got 2 more in the center here. And there's your 10. They're great. They come with a little plastic grommet, and basically you chop a hole in the grommet, you slide it all the way down the wires, and it traps the LED inside the metal housing. Then it bolts down to whatever it is that you're building. And that's really great, because a lot of these plastic LED housings that you get with some of these LEDs, now you all know what I'm talking about. You drill the hole, this little plastic grommet slides in, it's got, you know, little teeth behind that kind of lock it in place, and then you're supposed to snap your LED inside that, and everything's supposed to lock together. The one thing that is the variable is the thickness of your material that you're working with. So if you have a Lexan that's a little bit more thick than normal, it's not going to want to lock in place. The little teeth end up not being able to come fully extended. Then you can't get your LED light in. These LED housings solve all of that. I love them. They're relatively inexpensive for what they are, and they lock everything in place. Another item from Banggood are our drive shafts. Now, we've got our fully metal transfer case and motor. We're going to need something to connect that to the truck without, you know, basically snapping in two. And the stock drive shafts are weak in many ways. So we went with these all metal drive shafts, a 3-piece set. So it's specifically for these 6-wheel drive trucks. You don't have to buy 2 sets to get your extra drive shaft, which is nice. Now, a lot of these metal drive shafts have super duper micro itty bitty microscopic grub screws that absolutely don't work. What I found with these drive shafts is that their grub screws are about double the size. They're not huge, but for this size drive shaft, they are quite big. So I've had no problems with them whatsoever. And now we come to wheels and tires, also from Banggood.com. Now, what I did here is pretty special. Reason being is I wanted a specific look. I wanted to have 2 wheels as spare tires. There are 2 different types of tires on this car. There's a wider tire, which is in the front, and then there's a thinner tire, which is where these dually setups are in the rear. Now, I have a dually spare tire here, and on the other side, I have a front spare tire. Now, that may not seem strange to any of you unless you've actually owned one of these, and you know that it does not come with 2 spare tires. It doesn't come with brackets for 2 spare tires. I ended up with a second spare tire bracket. This spare tire bracket on this side is the stock spare tire bracket. On the opposite side, it would get these 2 cool little boxes. What I did was I removed this bracket and then customized it to fit over here. Then I took just the spindle and mounted the wheel on it, and hence 2 spare tires and the look that I wanted. It's symmetrical. I dig it. It's 2 spare tires. It's not something that I've seen anybody else really do to this specific truck. So I had the idea and I had to go for it. Glad I did, because I think it looks great. And it also gave me another spot for our exhaust. And we'll talk about the exhaust in a bit when we get to the customization portion of this video. Now, the other reason that we had 2 full sets of aluminum rims and tires is because I wanted dualies in the rear. Now, that's 8 tires alone. There are 12 wheels and tires on this truck. So you can actually purchase a single set of dualies, which is 6 wheels and tires. That's 1 set of dualies for the rear, and then a pair up front for a total of 6. Well, this has a total of 12. We have 2 sets of dualies in the rear. We have our set running the truck, and that gives us our 2 spare tires, and I absolutely love it. Having both sets of dualies in the rear it just makes a statement. I love it. It looks great. It drives great. And I'm extremely impressed with their quality as well. It's a Banggood.com product. This isn't made by Integy or RC four-wheel drive, but yet when you get everything put together, it looks and feels like they are. And that brings us to the final product that we got from Banggood.com, and that's carbon fiber. Now, all of the carbon fiber that's on this truck, which is, what did I say it was? 9 pieces? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Holy sh! And that brings us to the final upgrade from Banggood.com, and that was a single sheet of 2mm plain weave carbon fiber. There are 12 pieces of carbon fiber on this truck. Every single one of them hand-cut, handmade, and installed. And I am really loving it. I am a big carbon fiber fan. I put carbon fiber in everything, and I mean everything. I love carbon fiber. And getting a good cheap sheet of carbon fiber from Banggood.com and chopping it into little bits and creating this, I am very, very happy with the way this came out. And we will talk about carbon fiber much more in the next section of the video, which we're going to begin right now. And now it's time for the breakdown. Starting with paint. We went with 3 colors. Very basic, very simple. I knew that I was going to do a bunch more with vinyl in the end anyway. I had this idea from the very beginning. We went with a pearl white and gray. You see the gray on the doors. Now, we also went gray on the front clip here, but I ended up using some, I'm thinking it was the Loctite, but I used some Loctite on one of the screws, and right where I used the Loctite, it began to crack the plastic. No stress, no nothing. It just began to fall apart. Thankfully, I had a cab over here that I could rob the front plate off of, give it a respray, and continue with the build. This happened extremely late in the 6 months, so I was unable to order another one. Not only that, I think I had to order a whole truck to get just that piece. So that was a big save. However, that will be the one piece that's not pearl white. It was so late in the build that the reshoot only allowed me to shoot it white. And then you'll notice the gray on the doors. So we have gray on the doors. There's actually a touch of gray back here on the backs of these panels here. And there was obviously gray on the front clip as well, which we don't have now. We have white. The only other color that you'll notice is the silver back here, or chrome as they call it. It's more of a silver. This was a last minute idea. I didn't want it all to be one color. I really like the way that it came out because of another part to this exhaust, which we'll get into in just a second. So as far as paint goes, it's just those 3 colors. We've got pearl white, gray, and silver. The red that you see is actually reflective vinyl. Now, believe it or not, this was a last minute idea. I was going to do something else with the white. I was going to do more gray and kind of panel it out with some gray. And then I ran into this reflective red vinyl, and it was at work. I work at an RV plant. We restore and fix and repair RVs, and this was just hanging out, and I know that it's really good vinyl too because it's meant to go on an RV and stay there forever and ever and ever. So I grabbed this from work and I went to town, and I'm glad I did because in any type of light, it's a flashlight, a neon light, a laser pointer, outside the sunlight, all have a really cool effect when it comes to this vinyl. And you notice I've really put it everywhere. I've got little bits of red on just about everything, including one of my favorite portions of this are the twin lines that we have here. I've got some pinstriping on both sides, not in the rear, but I didn't really like it, so I got rid of it. But you can see I also have the pinstriping on this side, and inside the cab, on the inside of the doors, I also have some more red. We paneled out the insides of these. They came out really cool. And then one other portion in the cab that got some red are these seats. And I'll tell you, aside from this pair of lines right here, which I absolutely love, the seats came out killer. Now, I chose to do both paint and vinyl. I painted the steering wheel. I did some other little bits in there that are painted. But man, when I did the vinyl on the seats, I just knew that that was a home run. It looks so good. And the cool thing about the vinyl is it's very durable. If I were to paint the seats, and let's say Gary wanted to throw a driver in here, which they do fit. Gary took legs off one and put him in this cab over here, and he fit great. But it won't scratch the vinyl. You know, I mean, if it was painted, you're going to kind of scratch the paint. So I think the vinyl came out really good. I'm very happy with it. Now that we're in the cab, let's stay in the cab for a minute, and we'll kind of take in a tour here. Now, I wanted to do all kinds of stuff inside the cab, and some of it made it, some of it didn't. Now, one of the things that didn't make it in the cab, and only because I ran out of these lights, if I wasn't going to do these lights up top, if you take one of these and flip it upside down, underneath is clear plastic, and you can see the wires going through it. The blue light lights up. It's like, you know, it lights up all the stuff that's inside there. So it almost looks like a laptop or a computer screen. And I thought about flush mounting it in the dash, but there really wasn't any room. And I thought about just putting it straight up, almost like a laptop. And I went with something completely different because I had to have all four of these lights up top. I had a bunch of different lights that could have went up there, but these fit perfectly. So I kept these right where they are, and instead of doing the lit laptop or screen of some sort, I backlit the dials in the dashboard, and it was very simple to do. I actually came up with the idea, it just hit me out of nowhere. I was like, okay, well, let's just drill out the dials, put a piece of Lexan over them in the rear, which will kind of, you know, give it some depth, and then backlight it with an LED. And I did exactly that. The one thing that I did do that really pushed it over the edge is I kind of drew little dials on them, and I did it with, you know, just a fine tip, you know, Sharpie marker. I did some red and some green. And when I used the Lexan, in order to draw on it, I actually scuffed the Lexan on both sides with like some 300 grit sandpaper, something real fine, so where you get scratch lines, but you actually don't see the lines. It kind of just fogs the Lexan, and it does two things. First of all, it allows you to draw on it, because if you try to draw on regular Lexan, sometimes the marker won't even take because there's too smooth. It won't transfer the ink unless you use like a paint pen. At that point, it's too big of a line. And I wanted the Sharpie to be, the Sharpie's transparent, you know, it has transparent, you know, qualities to it. So if you backlight it, it almost looks like a neon light inside there, and I knew it would. So when you scuff on both sides, it allows you to draw on it, and it also collects light a lot better. So it really came out for a great effect. I know Gary's gonna love that. I backlit that, and then I knew that I was gonna paint the back walls white, the same pearl white that's out here, and I knew that that would catch light really well and kind of project it out. So I hid two blue LEDs behind the seats, and the cab came out great. I also painted a couple little things in there, threw a couple more decals in there. It's kind of like the 6-wheel drive carbon, so I've got the other carbon tag inside there. Like I said, I painted the steering wheel just a little bit. This is the fire extinguisher, and then a big old slab of carbon fiber. I mean, what spot on here does not get carbon fiber? Inside the cab? Yes, please. So I had this plain weave carbon fiber, plain weave meaning it doesn't come in diagonals, you know, the weave doesn't. Now, if you look at anything that gets a bunch of carbon fiber, like Koenigsegg, you know, I mean, you look underneath, you know, the hood of that thing, and I mean, it's just all these pieces of carbon fiber all come into a point. And that's a regular weave carbon fiber. It's a classic weave. This is what they call a plain weave carbon fiber. It's symmetrical, so you can actually put this straight up and it looks like a basket, you know, so you can cut this in just squares and it will be even. You're not just going to have diagonal lines. So it was very easy to work with. I threw a slab of that on there, and I threw, of course, one of Gary's channel stickers, which is the RC TRAILCATS. Gary, you got to send me some more channel stickers, thank you. But I threw one in there. I also threw one in the back, and I'll show you why in just a minute. But that kind of really rounds out the interior of this thing. And also, you know, I did the paneling on the doors, a little bit of paint. It works. It works. I love it. I hope Gary digs it. I know he's gonna love the dashboard, how it's lit. As far as the mirrors go, I did just a chrome on one side and a red on the other. Very simple. Now, the rear decking is very special. This is red oak, poplar, and carbon fiber. This is where 4 of our pieces of carbon fiber lay on the inside and 3 on the outside. This decking got the most carbon fiber out of the entire build. I had never used carbon fiber and wood together before, so I actually tested it out. I ran this little piece here, which I'm going to make a keychain for myself someday. I was going to make a keychain for Gary. I'm really sorry. But I ran out of time. When Gary had sent me the truck, he'd sent this to me like 3 months ago. So he's been very patient. I did do this little test piece and noticed that with just a little bit of Gorilla Wood Glue, it would hold and hold well. So I've made chessboards out of just cherry and maple, you know, the 2x2 squares. I know that wood holds really well with wood glue. I just didn't know that carbon fiber would, and it did, and it's great, and it came out perfectly. It's exactly the look I went for. Now, I have not finished this. I guess he can oil it if he wants to. It's probably going to be fine. I don't think it's, you know, gonna fall apart anytime for not being finished. I didn't want it to look finished, you know. I mean, that's not going to be finished on a truck like this. You're going to be yanking cars up on it or whatever, you know. So I wanted it to be kind of natural, but it's sanded flush. It's all one piece. It's bolted to the chassis of this truck, you know, via some really thick Lexan down here. I've got 2 pieces of Lexan, which also catch some of these LED lights that I have under here, and it kind of lights this little line up all the way around, you know, the chassis. But this thing is bolted down. I mean, this is not coming off, and it's not coming apart. So this will be a fixture of this truck for its life. This will fall apart well before this does. Now the rear, we got another piece of carbon fiber back here, just basically kind of cut it out, and I've got it screwed in 2 places. It's also glued on. These are also screwed and glued on. They are permanent parts of the vehicle. And they should, one other thing is I put a lip here and here, just in case he wants to put a lemonade or an iced tea on here and kick it off to a friend. He turns and it won't fall off. Now, I did not put a lip here in case something needs to slide off the rear. So I thought it was a really nice effect. I think it came out pretty cool, and it served for some really cool lines. While we're back here on the deck, one of the things I wanted to keep on the vehicle as a stock part were these really cool wheel well dividers. One of the videos we had a while back, I wanted to make sure that I got 2 lights in these things, and it's a very tight fit, and I would have settled for 1, but I did get 2 in there, and it made for a really nice effect. Now, these are perfectly centered. They're screwed right up into the bottom of this red oak. They should be there for a very long time. The wires are run straight through, and they go right into the center of the chassis, where I've got some holes in the center, and everything runs right through nice and clean. One of the things I didn't want is a bunch of wires hanging around everywhere. Now, I know that I kind of failed my mission. If you have followed my channel at all, I didn't want to see any wires. None. Zero. None. And as you can see, I was close, but it looks really good. Now, as far as the outside goes, the only thing left to talk about is our cool exhaust here. Now, I had a video a while back where I talked to all of you guys, and I got some really good feedback on where to put my exhaust. Now, we had 2 main options. We had underneath here, firing down, and then we had this right here. And I had explained before I even had this setup that I would have these 2 panels, and we could do twin exhaust, and I'll, you know, come up with something, you know, as far as the way that they looked. And unanimously, we went with this. So I was very excited about that, and this is how it came out. Now, the one other thing that you can notice about the exhaust that I am a big fan of is I use these cool drinking straws from, my local big box store. All I did was chop it, here, and I kind of gave it a little more bend, and this is the way it came out. It reminds me and is mimicking kind of like the exhaust pipes or headers that would change color with heat. And this is just a really killer look. It's the only part on here that has that color. Great accent piece. Love the way it came out. As far as up front, you can see that we've got the carbon tag here. Little YouTube in the center. We did some decal work here as far as like some vents. And as you can see, we had to leave a little extra room for our really cool LEDs. Speaking of LEDs, before we get inside, we should probably check these out real quick. Now, if you remember, one of the things that I had to do was I wanted all the LEDs to run from the transmitter. Now, there are two different switches on here. One is this toggle switch right here, and basically you're going to push that forward and it's going to give you your headlights, two of the center blue lights, and your tail lights. Once you pull back on the toggle switch and push back again, it's going to give you channel 2. Channel 2 is the outside blue lights, a set of yellow lights, your yellow lights on the side, and that's it. Once you pull that channel back and push it forward one more time, it gives you both channels running simultaneously. That gives you everything. All the way around, these are your running lights. Now, once you kick that back one more time and push it back again, it'll put those two channels in demo mode. So now you've got everything blinking, going back and forth. Your blue lights here will kind of, go independently and flip back and forth at one of the places. And I absolutely love the way it looks. Back one more time, forward, shuts the entire system off. That's on-off switch number 1. On-off switch number 2 is on this button right here. You hit the button one time, and that's going to give us our interior running lights, so that's our dashboard and our blue lights in the back. It's also going to give us our blue ground effects on the bottom. Now with another hit of the button, it's going to shut our blue lights off and turn our green lights on and our exhaust now. So we've got our exhaust lights that are working. We've got green lights in the front, green lights in the bottom, and that's our second channel of on-off switch number 2. Hit the button again, and now we have all of our lights on all the way around the car. As far as our ground effects, we've got green and blue underneath, our green in the front pointing down, and our exhaust and our interior lights as far as our dashboard and behind the seats. Go ahead and kill it again, and we're going to demo mode for those lights. So all of the same lights I was just speaking of, all of them are now going into demo mode, just like I showed you in on-off switch number 1. Go ahead and click it again, and now we're off. Basically, you can now run every single bit of your lights by turning them all on at the same time, and this is now both on-off switch number 1 and 2 all on at the same time. And as you would expect, if you crank them both on the final time, you now have all of your lights in the entire vehicle in demo mode. And this is a really cool setup right here. With the lights off and you're running around, this looks pretty wild. I like this. I also am a big fan of the just the yellow lights on. I think that's cool. This is a cool look. I'm a big fan. So Gary's gonna have a lot of fun going through this and figuring it out and just playing with it. And one other of the cool options that you have with these lights is the toggle switch does have a stay position. So like, let's say you turn the truck, off. Let's go ahead and kill all the lights. Okay, so all the lights are off right now. Let's go ahead and turn on the headlights. So now we've got the headlights on. If you kill the truck, take the battery out and go and do your thing and all that, and then come back and turn the truck on, your headlights will just run. So you can set that up as well to where you will just have running lights at all times. It's just a really cool setup. And remember, it's like a $20 transmitter and receiver combo. You're getting a lot out of this. So many options with relatively low money to upgrade. And last but not least, with 2 screws being removed, we're going inside. There is just as much going on in here as there was on the outside. I'm very proud of the way this came out. Now, it didn't come out 1,000% the way I wanted it to, because I wanted it to be no wires, all wire loomed out, and I found it to be really close to impossible. Nothing's impossible. I mean, I'm sure there's a way to do it, but it was really close to impossible. I put a few hours in trying to get wire loom around everything, and the way that it's soldered in, everything's soldered in minus these 2 little red clips here, which I think is the winch. Everything it looks like a little highway. I mean, you've got all of your wires underneath. They're all coming from the center to one side. All of the wires from the front, as you can see, are wire loomed. It's a really cool looking setup. The on-off switches are right next to each other. All the wires independently, all 8 of them, one individual color. I mean, I think I've got like I've got a handwritten, chart of where each channel and each color wire runs each individual LED setup. All of the electronics inside are put on a carbon fiber plate. It was the final piece of the carbon fiber. It's just this giant plate. It gives the chassis a bit of rigidity. It gives a good platform to hide everything on here. I'm very happy with it. It's a really, really clean look. It's a super clean setup. Gary should have 0 problems with this ever. I mean, this is a good, clean truck. It's not a rock crawler. This is not going to go blazing the trails. This is a concrete truck. This is meant to hang out by the pool, or some light gravel or light dirt. It can do inclines. It can do declines. It's not a fast truck. It's art. This is a working, rolling piece of art. I'm very proud of it. I really hope Gary likes this. This is already in the mail. If you're watching this video, Gary may actually have this already. I'm very happy with it. I hope Gary likes it too. We will see very soon. Special shout out to Flex Seal for hooking me up. Special shout out to Sherry and Wayne Kibler for shouting me out in some Flex Seal. That's where they actually saw it. Guys, I'll have another cool video coming pretty soon. Got a new build going on. I'm very happy right now. We got a lot of kick-ass stuff going. This is going to be my Komodo. We're going to turn it into a sawback. As you can see, I've already got it cut out. I'm super jacked, guys. Until next time, it's Brian. It's Amazing RC.